I finally finished Volume 3 of Mushoku Tensei, and it took me quite a long time because, well, for one, I just wasn't making reading a priority, but for two, this volume was a lot slower for me than the first two, but I am getting back into it, and I'm glad I am, and glad that I finally got through this volume, and I want to talk about it. So I've got my notes over here, and I'm just going to go through and talk a little bit about how I felt about it, I guess. So, if you remember last time, we had the incident where Rudy and Eris got teleported, and that's basically where it ended. So we actually start out with where Rudy meets the man god, and I had completely forgotten about the man god up to this point. I remember seeing it in the show, but I guess I didn't realize how late into the show it is, and in the book, series, he doesn't show up until book 3. What's interesting about whenever Rudy goes to see the man god is he always sees himself as the old fat guy from his previous life. That's how he sees his, they call it his astral self. That's kind of the image. And even the man god himself is like shocked seeing this, because I think that really what that is trying to portray is that Rudy still, even though he's lived like years, over a decade, I think, up to this point as Rudy, he still sees himself as that old, his past life of the fat guy. Rudy is a very interesting character in this series. It's interesting because he gets such a different take on life because he remembers his previous life, and he calls upon those past experiences from his old life to help assist him in his new life, or calls upon bad experiences that he wants to do better at. After Rudy's done chatting with Man God, he wakes up and he sees Ruijerd, however you pronounce it. He's this guy here with the green hair and the jewel on his face. They wake up and they're around a campfire, and Ruijerd is, the man god tells Rudy about Ruijerd, and when Rudy wakes up, he's skeptical, a little bit nervous, and then they start talking. Ruijerd is a Superd. The Superds they're like one of the demon races that Roxy and literally everybody else has warned Rudy about. Like the Superds you gotta watch out for them, they're bad dudes. And then after Rudy's talking with Ruijerd, we quickly realize that Ruijerd's a pretty cool dude, and maybe the man god was right, and that Rudy should trust him and go adventuring with Ruijerd and basically try to get back to the Fatoa region. Another thing too that's very interesting is Ruijerd, as he's talking to Rudy, he's like shocked that Rudy didn't instantly get up and run away, because Ruijerd is just used to that. He's used to people seeing him and instantly being terrified and getting the hell out of there. When Eris wakes up, she's with Rudy, but then she sees Ruijerd and freaks out because, once again, he's a Superd, and she's been warned about them since she was little. And a detail was her mom said that Superds eat kids if they don't go to sleep. So that was like one of the old wives' tales, I guess, that parents would tell their kids to help, or to threaten them to do things, at sleep being one of them. But basically we learn that Ruijerd's a homie. He's just there, and he helps protect these kids on their dangerous journey, because they are at this point in the demon continent, which is full of lots of different monsters and wildlife that's very ferocious and can kill. And anyway, Ruijerd's a cool dude, and you instantly, right from the very beginning, start to like this guy. As the group continues to go on their journey, we meet Roxy's dad, Ruckus. He's the village leader at this village that they go to, and he lets the kids in because they know Roxy. We get Ruijerd's backstory as well, and how he and the other Superds were possessed by the demon tridents. So it was like this weapon that he used, but they were possessed by the demon tridents from the demon Laplace, and Ruijerd killed his own family. He killed his son, but not before his son snapped the demon trident, breaking him free from the trance. And even though he had killed his son and all of his family, he ended up keeping his son's trident. So that's what he uses to fight with, is his son's trident. Anyway, Ruijerd has a very sad backstory. And once again, one of these incidences is why that everybody's terrified of Superds. I mean, I'm sure there's many other that we'll learn about in the future, but yeah, we meet Roxy's mom, we meet Roxy's family, and before Rudy and the gang end up leaving, Roxy's parents give Rudy a sword and they give him some money, and then they leave. Eris and Rudy fight a treant by themselves, and Rudy blows it up with one earth shot. One of the reasons that Ruijerd's probably surprised by this is that he had not seen silent magic users. Like, Rudy doesn't use incantations, and Ruijerd is old. I think he's been alive for like 500 years, I think is the exact number. But anyway, the gang just keeps fighting monsters, and they're going on their journey. They're going from place to place, sneaking into cities. Eventually they get to a place, and they start to become adventurers. They start their own guild. They're called Dead End, which is what everybody knows Ruijerd as. His name is called Dead End. He is the demon that all of these people are talking about, which they haven't seen in years. The three sign up to start doing missions because they need to make money. Nobody takes him seriously because they're called Dead End, and Ruijerd actually dyed his hair blue, and he hid his jewel on his head, so he's trying to hide who he is. But Rudy also is trying to cook up a plan to get Ruijerd's reputation better, I guess, because everybody's afraid of him. But Rudy knows that Ruijerd's a cool dude, and he wants everybody else to know that and to like him as well. So Rudy kind of schemes up this plan to do just that. There was a cool moment between Rudy and Eris where Rudy was asleep and he was talking to the man god and said that he was sick of seeing his old fat self, and that every time that he was talking to man god and he would see his old fat self, he felt like the life he lived as Rudy was just a dream. And I think the quote is, I don't want my life as Rudy to feel like a dream. Anyway, Rudy wakes up, he sees Eris. She's pretty nervous and just wants to get back home, and she lays her head on his shoulder, and it's kind of a cute moment. Anyway, the trio keep going on missions to do silly things. They find cats and do all sorts of miscellaneous small jobs so that they can make money and rank up as adventurers, because when you start a guild or become adventurers, you start at it's either F or E rank, and you have to work your way up by doing jobs. But obviously, Eris is an advanced swordsman, Rudy is a hell of a magician, and Ruijerd is just god tier level. He's really, really powerful and an incredible fighter. At one point, they go on a mission to find a cat, a missing animal. That was one of the missions that was posted, so they took it. They end up finding this cat because Ruijerd is like a master hunter, and he can hunt and track down anything. So they end up finding this cat, which was in a cage next to a whole bunch of other animals, and then they caught 3 other people. They're not people, though. I think one of them was a person. There's another reptile one. I'm just going to call them people. But they caught 3 people that were stealing animals on the streets. And then when they would see a job that was posted for a missing animal, they would act like they found that animal and turned it in. The 3 are on the ground, and Rudy wants to interrogate them, figure out what's going on. Because at this point, they didn't know that. They just caught these 3 criminals. And anyway, at one point, Rudy's talking to one of them, and then the guy kicks Rudy over, knocks him down, and kicked him hard, like almost knocked Rudy out. So Ruijerd didn't even think about it, just instantly stabbed this guy and killed him. So there was only 2 people left. Rudy was kind of freaking out, and he was chatting a little bit with Ruijerd, talking about his reputation. And then they go back to interrogating these people. All of that gets spilled of what they're doing with the animals. And so Rudy makes a deal with these guys. And he says, hey, since you guys are higher ranked adventurers than us, you go out and get harder jobs that pay more money. We will go out and get the silly jobs that don't pay as much. And then we'll go do your hard jobs and you do our silly jobs. And then we're going to swap the money. And we'll give you a cut of the harder jobs that we do. Well, that goes on for a while. Then they take on this really tough one, which involves killing these giant snakes. And there's these kind of ruffian-looking they're kids, essentially. These kid adventurers that are a little bit higher ranked. They're also going on this anaconda mission. And the trio sees these kids after, like, they already had confrontations with these kids, and they were kind of little douches about just everything. And Ruijerd sees these kids that they're fighting these snakes, and Rudy's like, hey, hold on, let's wait till they absolutely need us. We'll slide in, we'll save the day, we'll be their heroes. Well, it was too late, because one of the boys at that point got killed, and Ruijerd was mad at Rudy, so they all instantly rush in there. They kill the snakes, they save the other guild members of that guild, that other, I believe it was a trio as well. But Rudy felt sick to his stomach. He's like, dude, I effed up. Like, that kid is dead because of me. Ruijerd's pissed at Rudy for it. One of the kids is Kurt, and he's talking to him, and Rudy's just like apologizing, feeling bad. Kurt says, Rudy, it's not your fault. You're just trying to be a good leader. Rudy still feels bad. I think it helped ease Ruijerd's mind a little bit, because Ruijerd twisted it in a sense of, like, Rudy wanted those boys to prove their warriorship, I guess. They end up finding a giant red cobra. They kill it. It's an A-rank monster, but all three of them kill it together. And there was another dead party that was on the ground, so they took all the items from the dead bodies, and then lots of different monsters that Rudy was now thinking about, because he's like, wow, there's tons of monsters out here. That was a rank A one. Just a lot to take in, because Rudy has never been to the demon continent, and I don't think he's really seen that many monsters up to this point, especially ones these powerful. So anyway, there's a guy named Nokopara. He's a horse dude that is always hanging out at the guild, and he catches wind of Rudy's scheme and busts them in the act. So what happens is Nokopara wants to blackmail them, but at this point, Ruijerd's like, you know what, the jig is up. Pours water on his head, washes out the blue paint, and now his hair's green again, and everybody loses it. They're like, oh my, he really is dead end. And people that were friends and respected Ruijerd up to this point just instantly flipped a switch. They were terrified of him. They wouldn't talk to him. They ran away. Rudy was pissed off about this, because he's like, dude, Ruijerd just saved some of your lives, and he helped save your cat and protected you and did this thing. Like, Ruijerd did all these good things, but then instantly, as soon as people figured out that he was dead end, they turned against him. So they're pissed, and Rudy's like, you know what, we're done, we're leaving. But he also feels bad for Ruijerd, because he sees the parallel of Ruijerd being an outcast and nobody likes him, and the parallel was when Rudy was in his other life, he would get bullied. And I thought that at this point, it was really good messaging that Rudy he has a better understanding and a feel for how Ruijerd might be feeling. And then at the end, the gang sets out on a journey. They met fighters along the way. They started to communicate better. Eris and Ruijerd trained, and then not much else happened there. I think a year had passed up to this point, and that's pretty much where our story ends in this chapter. There is a bonus chapter which talks about Princess Ariel. She's the rightful princess to the Asura, and she's just hanging out in her garden with two of her bodyguards, I guess. Their names is Luke and Derek. The Fatoa region incident happened, though, where things got teleported, and a boar actually got teleported and into the garden, into the city, and the boar was going after Ariel, and one of her bodyguards, Derek, jumped in front of it, and he died. He was a mage, but he got killed. And then at that moment, a white-haired mage jumps in and saves Ariel from getting killed, and that's pretty much it. That's where this leaves off. But if I had to guess, Ariel is going to be a important character moving forward. I don't remember her much from the anime. Maybe she's there. Like I said, I don't remember up to this point. After I finished the volume and read this chapter, the bonus chapter, but I'm assuming that she's going to pop back up at some point in time. So, but yeah, that was it. That was volume 3. I think about halfway through, I kind of got burnt out. And honestly, I took a couple-month break from reading this, which was quite silly on my part. So I need to pick it back up. I'm glad that I finally did. I finished volume 3. I'm going to move on immediately to volume 4 and continue going with it, because I really enjoy Mushoku Tensei. And I think once I get to at least caught up to where I've seen in the anime, I'm really going to be stoked about it. But there's lots of chapters and details that you don't get in the anime that you do get in the book. And yeah, I don't know. I'm excited. So I would say out of the first 3 volumes, this one was definitely my least favorite as far as like enjoyability goes. There's still some good moments in character development, don't get me wrong, but like kind of a nothing burger of a volume other than meeting Ruijerd, learning about him, and then seeing Rudy and Eris grow a little bit. Like not much happened. So yeah, that's where we're at. Anyway, that's just my thoughts on Volume 3. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are down below. And I'm excited to jump back into Volume 4. My goal this year is, at first I wanted to read through all of the volumes and finish Mushoku Tensei, but I think there's like over 24, maybe 26 volumes, so that ain't gonna happen. I set a different goal to if I can read 1 a month. So I finished 3. If I can finish 4 in April and so on. So I should be able to get at least 8 or 9 more in. Some volumes are longer, some are shorter, so yeah, I don't know. Anyway, thank you guys for watching, and as always, keep it rad.